Hi, my name is Alan Simpson. This is a quick video on how to do responsive captioned figures in a web page. By captioned figures, I just mean each picture has a little caption under it. And responsive just means that no matter what size screen the user has, whether it be a tiny little phone screen or a great big desktop screen, the pictures will all display neatly without the user having to scroll left and right. They'll just automatically adjust to the user screen. Okay, so to get started, I'll create just a folder for the code and the pictures. Obviously, you can just put these in your own site folder if you want. And I already have the images out in another folder, so I'll just go grab that whole folder of images and paste it into this folder I just made, and there they are. Doesn't matter how many there are, I'll just do 10 or 12 or whatever. You can see they're roughly the same shape. If I go to the details view in Windows here, you can see they're all 640 wide and vary from 330 to 481 pixels tall. You can fudge that if you want them to look the same size, but for now let's just say they're roughly the same size and they're in that images subfolder. Okay, so now write some code. I'll open up VS Code, which I'll use as my editor here. All right, and then I'll open that folder I just created. And inside of it, you can see it still has that images folder, but we're going to need some code to display those images. So I'll start by creating. I will call it respfigs.html. It doesn't matter what you call it, of course. It's just a web page. Then I'll do the exclamation point and tab, and that puts in all this standard boilerplate code for HTML5. I'll change the page title. And now let's talk about the images. A good way to show caption pictures is to use the figure and fig caption tags. The figure/figure tags are just a block like a div or something. But inside them you can put this fig caption/fig caption tags, and in between those tags you can put in the caption for the figure. I'll just use some random text like, this is the first figure caption for the caption, and then for the image you just use the usual image tag right above that but inside the figure. So my images are in this images subfolder, and I'll show lifestyle. The alternate text is supposed to contain text for screen readers for the blind, but since I'm just demoing this and the pictures aren't real, I'll put alt equal quote. All right, so now when I view the page in a web browser, I should see the image and the caption, and I do right there. Okay. And of course, we'll use CSS for all the styling. You can, of course, put this in an external CSS file. There's never any situation where you can't. I'm just using an internal style sheet so that it's easier to see what's going on as we. And I'll create a quick style rule for all the figure elements, and we'll just put a border around each one for starters so we can kind of see where the edges are. All right, I don't have to save my work because I have autosave on, but if I refresh, you can see the border around the figure element. Now by default, it's as wide as the page, so that's why it's so much wider than the image. If I give it a different width, say 320 pixels, then it shrinks down to that, but now the image is bigger than the figure box because I didn't size the figure box. But what I could do is make a style rule that says for any image that's inside figure tags, make its width 100%. And that percent always relates to the parent element, which is the figure box in this case, because the image is contained within the figure tags. So that image now is showing a frame around the picture and the text, and you can see the caption text underneath. Now I can also style the figure caption by creating a fig caption style rule, and I'll just pick any old font. You know, I'm not going to knock myself out trying to design this thing here. I just want to show you the code. But we'll use that font family and we'll give a little padding. I'll just say 0 top and right padding, 4 pixels at the bottom and 6 pixels at the left, and it just leaves a little more space around the text there. Okay? Now for the rest of these images, I'll just use the exact same tags and just change the image file name and caption in each one. But I'll start just by doing a quick copy and paste, and I'll fast forward through this because it's not particularly interesting to watch. And it doesn't really matter how many of these you have. I'll do, I don't know, maybe what's this, about a dozen of them. That's fine. And now that we have lots of figures in there, we can start thinking about the response. I'll begin by putting all the figures inside a div, and I'll give it a class name of, I don't know, just make up a name. Class equal figures, say, okay? And now all of them will have to go inside that div, so I got to put the closing div tag under the last figure, okay? And now if I look at the page, now it doesn't really do anything. They're not really responsive. They're just stacked up. So to make them responsive now, I have to do some styling with this figures, dot figures, I should say, class. And I'm going to use Flexbox because that's a real easy way to do this sort of thing. And so in the figures class, we'll start with display flex. All right, and when I go like refresh the page, that is kind of weird looking, but you can see they're side by side. Now there's a great cheat sheet for Flexbox by Joni Bologna, where it's spelled like Bologna, you know, like the food. Anyway, you can go Google Joni Bologna Flexbox cheat sheet to find that. You can just scroll down to the cheat sheet and then just kind of follow the examples to get what you want. Now I did the display flex, this part already. Now how do I want it, in rows or columns? I do want it in rows because it's going to word wrap in rows. And so they say to put in this flex direct for the property, then colon row, meaning you want it to, you know, wrap horizontally, basically row by row. All right, and let's see, does it make any difference yet? No, it's not really wrapping yet. Well, I didn't tell anything about wrapping. What else do we got here? Do you want like beginning? Actually, I'd like them centered, either justify content center like that, or maybe space around just so they're even. Maybe I'll use space around. Okay, so that's justify hyphen content colon. And feel free to play around with all these things on your engine. You're not going to break anything. I'm just kind of making it up as I go along here. Your aesthetic might be different, and you may want to do it a different way. Okay, still no effect, but I haven't told it about wrapping yet. Here we go. Want it to move to another line? Yes, I want it to wrap. They're saying flex, wrap, wrap. Oops, that should have been a semicolon, so flex wrap, colon wrap, and take a look in the browser. Ah, there we go, that's what we're looking for. Okay, so now they're all roughly the same size, and you know, they fill the width of the browser window automatically. So if you're on a skinny little phone, you just see 1 or 2 columns. On a big screen, you see multiple columns. All right, so that's the. In order for these style rules to not affect other figures and captions you've used in your site, if any, maybe you haven't used any, but if you did, what you could do is change all these style rules so that they start with dot figure space and then the name, and it won't ruin anything. It'll still look the same, but any figures and captions you have outside of this div wouldn't be affected by that, so they'd still. Now, I didn't do anything to make these images the same height, so if you look across, you might notice how the bottoms don't line up. They're all the same width because I specified a width. I didn't specify a height. You can do that. Some of the images might be a little distorted. Just make sure you do it in the figure space image style. So now when you reload the page, all the images are the same height, so it looks a little neater because you can see it, all the captions line up. Not a big deal, but it's something you can do if you want. I'll put a link to all of the source code in the description for this video so you can go grab that. Play around with it, use it in your own site, whatever you want to do. All right? Thanks for watching. See you around the net. Bye-bye now.